Elon Musk and Lars Moravy recently gave some exciting Tesla Semi updates, including a rare update on full self-driving for the Semi. Stick around as I share some of these recent updates. I'm John, and this is Cleanerwatt. So far, Tesla has built a pilot fleet of around 200 semi-trucks or so, and most of all, if not all, have been deployed in Tesla's fleet internally and also in PepsiCo's fleet. Thankfully though, mass production is coming, and in Tesla's most recent investors presentation, this image was shared showing the construction process for the new mass production Tesla Semi factory that they're building next to Gigafactory Nevada. When it comes to Tesla's factories, they like to build them very quickly, and I did come across this post on X by JMT Consultants Incorporated, and in this post it was written, quote, "The speed at which this massive facility is being constructed is remarkable, with teams working around the clock to meet ambitious goals." So clearly Tesla is pushing to have this factory built very quickly, and when it comes to a basic timeline as to when this factory should actually be producing vehicles, previously at the 2024 IAA event, Dan Priestley made it clear that regarding the Semi, Tesla planned on, quote, "scaling production throughout 2026. With that being said, Dan's update was a little bit vague, scaling production throughout 2026, but during Tesla's Q3 2024 investors conference call, more details were given as to the timeline for this factory. During that call, Lars Moravy said, quote, "So as we posted in earnings, we're progressing swiftly on the build of the Semi factory. We've released all our major cash flow expenditures for that program, and we're on track to start pilot builds in the second half of next year, with production starting in the first half of 2026 and ramping really throughout the year to full production." It's really encouraging that Tesla is on track to start pilot production in the second half of 2025. And in addition, keep in mind that when it comes to scaling production to full production in 2026, that should not be as difficult as scaling up the higher production Model 3 and Model Y that they did in the past, or even the Cybertruck, because they're not planning to produce as many of these Tesla Semis as those other vehicles, producing more than 50,000 per year. Yes, that's a good number of vehicles, but as compared to other higher production vehicles, there's a much more complicated supply chain and other things with those other vehicles. In addition, they've taken their time with their pilot production fleet, so I expect that this production ramp should go quite smoothly, and I expect by the end of 2026 that they should actually be producing at least a production run rate near that 50,000 mark. With that being said, in that conference call, Lars Moravy also mentioned something about demand for the Tesla Semi. He specifically said, quote, "Semi growth will largely depend on our customers' adoption of the product." Elon Musk replied, "Well, I don't think we're going to be limited, honestly." Then he added, "We have ridiculous demand for the Semi. I'm also of the opinion that demand for the Tesla Semi will not be an issue, but that Tesla will be able to sell pretty much everything they can build for a long while." And a lot of that comes down to just the fact that when you look at the Tesla Semi versus the competition, it's really the best out there. In addition, when it comes to real world use cases, like with PepsiCo, PepsiCo has proven in their fleet that the vehicle truly can replace diesel semis and can do so without compromises and actually save them some money. With that being said, a lot of other companies I'm sure are taking note with this. And in addition, recently DHL is one example of a company that's seriously taking a look at the Tesla Semi. And on DHL's website, they had a press release article here. And in this article, it was specifically written about their testing of a Tesla Semi, quote, "Over a 2-week trial period this summer, DHL Supply Chain USA took a thorough look under the hood of the Tesla Semi, integrating the e-truck into 3,000 miles, which equates to 5,000 kilometers, of normal operations out of Livermore, California. The trial included one long haul of 390 miles, 625 kilometers, fully loaded, with a gross combined weight of 75,000 pounds or 34 metric tons, confirming the Tesla's ability to carry typical DHL payloads over a long distance on a single charge. During the trial vehicle averaged 1.72 kilowatt hours per mile, operating at speeds exceeding 50 miles per hour, 80 kilometers per hour, on average for over half its time on the road. The result exceeded our expectation and even Tesla's own rating. Our verdict? The Tesla Semi is ready for prime time. So it's encouraging that the Tesla Semi is living up to its expectations, and DHL, according to that article, they think it's ready for prime time and it's beating the efficiency expectations that Tesla set. This is something, of course, we've talked about in the past. So DHL found that the Semi is very efficient. PepsiCo has also found that the Tesla Semi is very efficient. Once again, as I mentioned previously, at the 2024 IAA transportation event, the manager from PepsiCo mentioned specifically that with the PepsiCo side, which hauls heavier loads, they're seeing somewhere around 1 kilowatt hour per kilometer efficiency, which equates to 1.61 kilowatt hours per mile efficiency. So I believe a lot of companies are taking notice of the Tesla Semi, not only because it does work and it does actually have the ability to replace diesel semis on the road, but in addition to that, there are huge financial incentives to add Tesla Semis to companies' fleets because the Tesla Semi should have a much lower cost per mile of operation. And this is something that was made very clear during the Tesla investors conference call when Elon Musk said, quote, "Fundamentally, if you've got a semi, the fully considered cost per mile per ton of transport is better than a diesel truck. Any company that doesn't adopt an electric semi will lose. It's not a subjective thing." I believe Elon Musk is spot on with this statement here, that if you don't add electric semi-trucks to your fleet, you will lose, because in very competitive spaces, like for example, shipping, if, for example, UPS adds a bunch of Tesla semis to their fleet and it saves them a lot of money and they're able to lower their rates a little bit, they may be able to beat out FedEx, for example, at getting some customers, because cost is often a big reason. If you have two reliable companies, cost is a big reason for a company to ship with UPS versus FedEx or FedEx versus UPS. So if you're in a very competitive market, it's going to be important that you use every advantage given to you, every advantage available to you. So if the Tesla Semi truly is quite a bit cheaper to operate and it easily replaces other diesel semis on the road, it will be an obvious thing for companies to add Tesla semis to their fleets. So once again, demand should not be an issue at all for the Tesla Semi. Beyond just the financial reasons, it appears like the Tesla Semi is also a great recruiting tool and also a driver retention tool for companies. And Lars Moravy did speak about this topic during the Q3 2024 investors conference call. Speaking about the Tesla Semi, Lars mentioned, quote, "And this is proving so in our fleets. In fact, Pepsi actually said last week their drivers don't want to go back." Of course, going back, referring to going back to a diesel semi from the Tesla Semi. Lars added, "It's what they want to drive." Then Elon replied, "Their top drivers, they get to drive a Tesla Semi. It's the thing they want to drive. It's super fun to drive." Elon even added, "It's radically better than a diesel semi. This is why the drivers love it." This seems to echo something that was specifically mentioned during the recent 2024 IAA Transportation Expo event, when a PepsiCo representative talking about the Tesla Semi specifically mentioned, quote, "We have a driver who's been a diesel driver for 30-40 years, and his feedback was just so positive. It was like a kid in a candy store. We asked him, 'How do you like the truck?' And the feedback is usually the same. 'I don't want to go back to diesel. This is the future. This is what I want to drive.'" So DHL and PepsiCo are two great outside examples showing that the Tesla Semi is ready for prime time and is ready to be added to other companies' fleets. And it looks like DHL will very likely add some Tesla semis to their fleet, because in this article, it was also written, quote, "Following the successful trial phase, DHL Supply Chain USA is now carefully planning how we could best integrate these electric trucks into our network as Tesla gears up for large-scale production of the Semi in 2026. Beyond all that, Lars Moravy and Elon Musk during the conference call also made some comments about the Tesla Semi's safety. Lars Moravy specifically mentioned that the acceleration ability of the Tesla Semi makes it safer for other drivers on the road, and you don't get stuck behind a Tesla Semi in a slowdown situation. But in addition to that, Elon Musk mentioned the anti-jackknifing software and the fact that their use of regenerative braking makes it safer because you don't have to worry about your brakes overheating. So it's really obvious why drivers would prefer the Tesla Semi over diesel semis. But in addition to all that, when full self-driving hits the Tesla Semi, it's really going to be a huge game changer for transportation. And while the Tesla Semi does not yet have FSD, there was an update given during that investors conference call, that recent investors conference call, when Lars Moravy mentioned, quote, "All of the semis, since a couple of hundred we've deployed already, and the ones that we'll be building next year and throughout the future, have all of the hardware and the cameras necessary to deploy FSD, and we're currently training with that small fleet that we have. And as soon as the fleet is trained and the neural nets are up, we'll get FSD onto that platform. So I imagine by the time the Tesla Semi is in mass production in 2026, that Tesla will have FSD on those vehicles operating at least at a supervised level, maybe not quite unsupervised right away, but at least as a supervised level. And it's going to be really interesting to see how this really revolutionizes transportation. And I have high hopes for Tesla FSD in the Tesla Semi. Do let me know what you think about all this in the comments section below. I'd love to hear from you. I'd also like to say thank you to all of those of you who support me through Patreon. Your support makes a big difference and does help make these videos possible. If you'd like to find out more about how you can support my work through Patreon, I will put a link in the video description. Thank you so much.